I tell you what, that entry takes its time, Gatesy, doesn't it? Bloody hell. Hi there, and welcome to Full Tremaine. I'm Duke, that's Gatesy, and underneath us right now is Andy. Good evening, Andy. How you doing,
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm not going to lie to you, I'm loving that intro. We're going to have to come up with something new every week now, boys. You realise this, don't you?
It'd be like Price is Right. Come on down.
I think what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to get the old bow tie and tuxedo. I'm going to have to give him the Michael Buffer. I'm going to have to.
Calm yourself down. Getting carried away now. Right, good evening. Well, I say good evening. It is good evening now. It's going to be good evening when it goes out. So welcome to episode 2 of our Hammer Time of Our Lives. And this time we're going to be concentrating on the 1986-1987 season. So, a couple of little snippets before we get into our memories and the games of West Ham that season. Argentina won a World Cup, 1986. They beat West Germany 3-2 after knocking England out in the quarter-final. You had one of the worst goals I think we've ever seen, followed by one of the greatest goals that I think any of us could arguably, the best goal that any of us have ever seen. You know, Maradona's, I think he beat about 27 people in the build-up to that goal, and most of them he beat twice. And I just want to touch on the hand of God. Peter Shilton.
Why not? Maradona did.
Well, there is that. Not bad, Gatesy. Not bad. I like it. I like it. So, in July, just after the World Cup finished, after one season with Everton, Gary Lineker left and joined Barcelona in a deal worth $2.75 million to go play for one Terry Venables and alongside Mark Hughes at Barcelona at the Nou Camp. 8th of August, West Ham fans and Manchester United fans clashed aboard a ferry bound for Amsterdam. And after a number of arrests and some damage caused, there was fears that the ban for English clubs in European football, in the European competitions, was going to be extended to include friendlies at the start of the season. They were worried that we were going to be banned from playing friendlies in Europe for a number of seasons. Later on in August, Luton banned away fans from Kenilworth Road. That was partially down to, if I remember rightly, the Luton riot when our good friends Millwall went to Kenilworth Road for a cup game. Was it FA Cup tie? It was, previous season. And decided to trash the place, basically. Listen, I'm not going to point fingers.
Is that why it still looks the same now?
Well, you say that, Andy. You say that, but what was put in place in 85, 86, all the plans that were put in place to replace the stands and everything else actually was only completed in the, I believe, in the early 2000s. I believe it was the early 2000s after what was classed as the Luton riot. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to have a quick look because I don't want someone coming on later and telling me that I'm wrong. I don't know what you mean. We'll do that in a minute.
Because I've been to Luton a couple of times when West Ham under-23s have played. Because someone I work with is a Luton fan, and I was walking over someone's back garden, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And that's the reason I was asking.
2005. There you go. Look. So Luton Town announced a £1 million overhaul of Kenilworth Road in 2005. The club would spend 350 grand on a new pitch and 650 grand converting the ground to an all-seater. The work on the stands began in the summer of 86, but was not finished until 2005.
Wow.
So, listen, it didn't take that long to build London Stadium. That's all I'm saying, and that's slightly bigger. And if I remember rightly, was changed from its original purpose in less time than that. So,
Yeah.
and a notable mention for a certain Scottish manager in the November of '86, his beginning of his legacy at Manchester United began. Alex Ferguson joined United in the November. And Vinnie Jones joined Wimbledon from Wilston for 10 grand. 10 grand. 10 grand. It's nothing, is it, really, in the grand scheme of things? Right.
Now he's a
So,
Hollywood superstar.
as everyone who watched the first go round of this last week, we're basically talking about our memories of the 85-86 season this time round. We picked 3 games each. A couple of little snippets, or if you're Andy, whose own work has been done this week, you're pretty much going to get a running commentary. Brian Moore-esque, if I remember rightly. And Gatesy will just fill you with probably passing percentage stats and all the rest of it from said games, because we all know he loves his stats. So, Andy, do you want to kick us off then, buddy, with your first game?
Yeah, no, like I said, I'd done my homework last week after we recorded it. I sat there. It was for 3 or 4 hours, I think, showing all
It was a big all
the games,
video, that one.
And it really does make me, unfortunately, like I said, being born in '91, it did make me wish I could have went to some of them games. And the reason, the first one I've picked was Goalfest, was the Chelsea game in October, just over 27,000 at Upton Park. Goalfest game of 5-3. Look at that kid.
Look at them shorts.
They're shorts, aren't they?
They're shorts, aren't they? I think the term was coined that they're called Daisy Dukes, aren't they, if they were in denim?
Yeah, definitely. So we didn't start well in that game. Keith Jones scored a penalty for Chelsea, and not long after that, we got a goal back from McAvenny, scored a header from a corner. Bit of a scramble, but got the ball rolling. And straight from kickoff, we nearly scored straight away, really, pushed the pressure on. And then we get a penalty from Kevin Keane. So we really did put the pressure on a minute later. And a certain Mr. Ray Stewart scored and smashed it like he usually does. As on my note said, boom. In the power. The second half was a bit more of a bad start again from us. A certain Kerry Dixon scored a great header. It was a good, great player. Like I said, a lot of when I mentioned to my old man, sorry, I'll keep changing the subject. He was telling me about all these players, and it sort of made me, this is the main reason why we're doing this show. And he even mentioned how close and what the games were like. Moving on, a certain John, I had to laugh when I wrote this down, Bumstead scored a belt. Sorry for my immatureness.
John
he then
Bumstead.
Yeah. It was actually a very good goal. It wasn't from his bum either. He smashed it straight into the bottom left-hand corner, so to put them 3-2 up. And then this is where West Ham, this is what they say, the West Ham way, we started to pick up a bit of momentum, and we scored from Kevin Keane, a great shot, but there was a handball in the build-up, and I don't think we would have got away with it in this day and age without getting a booking, how we surrounded the referee asking why it wasn't given. But eventually we took it and we got a penalty, and Mr. Ray Stewart scored again. Another boom. Then our lovely little man, Tony Cottee, made it 4-3 with a diving header. Great ball in from the right from Dickens. He worked really hard on the wing to get the ball in. And then Mr. Cottee again made it 5-3 with a great shot, running in from the left and smashing it into the top corner. The next one, sorry if I've bored you so far, the viewers are...
No, what I was about to say, mate, it's a game I wish I could have seen live. I remember watching, I did the same as you, I went back and watched highlights, and there are some bits that obviously I was 8 this season, so me and Gatesy were talking earlier just before you came on, and we were talking about the World Cup in '86. I said I don't really remember the World Cup of '86. My first real World Cup memories are of '90, but this season I do actually like watching back, like you say, the 4-hour marathon. I do actually remember some of these goals. Remember seeing either the games live or some of the highlights. Even it was the game itself was mad. 8 goals in that game is just crazy.
Yeah. This one is not so long because I struggled to find the highlights. So our season review, sorry for the people watching, is even though it's 4 hours, it only seems to be the home games or London derbies. So you're probably thinking, oh, I've not done my homework on this game, just to let everyone know at home. So I don't know whether up north, whether they didn't have TVs or something back then. Coventry a bit further up, maybe.
Anyone that's watching from the Midlands has now switched off.
Have we got an unsubscribe button that we can put up, Casey?
Oh, yeah.
But I've just got 3 facts on this one, but this sort of says it exactly how it is. We went to Coventry away. We won 3-1. As you can see there, the attendance not so much, just over 14,000. Sorry, but the most important bit was the scoreline and Mr. Tony Cottee getting a hat trick. Another stat for this game was a certain Stuart Robson making his debut after his move from Arsenal. So that's something for there. But like I said, with this show, it's all about memories and stuff. So maybe even one of the viewers even went to that game or could give us more of a bit of an info on it. So that's what this show's all about.
Gatesy, sorry, can you just tuck that back up again? I'm just looking at that. I'm looking at that Coventry side. I mean, we all remember the West Ham sides, but I'm just looking at that, and I'm seeing a Grizovic, Brian Burrows, Brian Kilcline, Peake, Mickey Ginn, Lloyd McGrath, Cyril Regis. Oh my word! Now remind me, Brian Kilcline, was it like a long blonde mullety type thing, and he had the great tash as well, didn't he? Yeah, the old. Yeah,
but do you know the thing? What amazes me now is it will never happen now. Was that West Ham team all English apart from McAvenny? Was that right? On that, it's mad. It's mad to think what it was. Am I right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you are. All British if you want to go down that road. Then.
Yeah. Yep. No, that was mad. And my last one was moving on. So we've the season's not great, but. I'll leave Gatesy to do all the stats, but my last game, what I picked was the Arsenal game on the 8th of April. As you can see there, just over 26,000 at Upton Park. And like I said, with these games, I've sort of picked ones with a few of the goals in, and a very, very interesting game this one was. 2 stats for you. I like a stat now. I'm turning into Gatesy, really.
You're turning into Gatesy. Look at you.
On the second show already, I'm learning quick, ain't I? Is the fact what made me laugh the most was on the Coventry was because I didn't realise, obviously, was Billy Bonds was 40 years old playing in that game. I know he played on for another season, but he was just outrunning people then, even at his age, and his momentum and what he'd done for the Claret and Blue. And even though I've only seen highlights, I can definitely see now why he's got a stand named after him at the London Stadium. Another interesting stat was the goalkeeper playing his first game in 2 years. So that's a nice game to jump into. Now to the game.
Put it back up, Gatesy. Put it back up.
Okay.
McAllister. Again, you touched saying what you said on the last game, though, Andy.
Yeah.
Both teams there. Both teams.
Yeah.
All British.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? Well, and Irish as well.
Both teams.
Yeah.
Well, all right, if you want to.
The
Still
Irish
British
won't
Isles,
be
if
happy
you
if
want.
you're saying that they're British. They'll have the right.
Listen, I'm not having him coming on and having a go at me again, right? We've already got to put the apology up at the bottom for last week. There's donut underneath here. Got it, Martin Allen, not Alvin Martin. In fact, don't worry about the bot. Don't worry about the banner.
Hopefully, when this goes
now.
out, we won't all sound like we're on speed this time.
On helium. I'd like to offer an apology. So, Fulton Ryan would like to offer an apology to anyone that was watching last week, because the man below me, that way, he wrongly quoted, and although we did correct it last week, we would like to offer an apology again this week for anyone that was watching or would have picked it out. It wasn't Martin Allen who scored a hat-trick against Newcastle. It was, in fact, Alvin Martin. So we'd like to put that to bed and apologise to anyone that we upset last week. So swiftly moving on from that.
I'm sorry, Martin Allen and Alvin Martin. If I offended you.
Yeah, Mad Dog would love you. Well, listen, Martin Allen would love you for crediting him with hat-trick in that game. You've done well there. Gatesy in your Poker Stars t-shirt that I can imagine you never got that from winning a game of poker online.
Perhaps not.
Perhaps not. Talk to me.
Okay,
I've got to finish my report yet.
Oh, he's still got more.
He hasn't finished. See, you've jumped the gun. Yeah. Your missus has
I'd like
told
to
you about that.
apologise this week for myself jumping the gun. There's going to be a lot of apologies on this bloody show. I'll tell you over the next God knows how many weeks.
As they say, the show must go on.
Absolutely.
So this game I liked. Actually, more than the Chelsea game, to be honest, because it was a lot more open.
Right.
I love an open game. Yeah. And Mr. Mark Ward. I've only heard stories about Mark Ward, but seeing him play in these highlights, now I'll see what all the fuss is about. What a player.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. And he started off well with a fantastic crossfield pass and a Mr. Billy Bongs with a header. Headed it straight down to Mr. TC. Boom! Chest half volley.
Boom.
What a start to the game. Moving on. This is not good. This is not good at all. Arsenal get awarded a penalty. They scored it. That's all I'm talking about. I don't want to even give them any credit. Actually, I do.
I feel like I'm there. You're passionate on this. He's amazing.
Yeah,
I
love it. There was a bit of, as usual, I think it may have been John Moss's dad or Mike Dean's dad or something who was refereeing this game. Because,
no, it probably was John Moss.
Well, there was a bit of controversy in this one. Mr. McAllister in goal made a great save from the penalty. Great save. As you can imagine, behind the goal, celebrating. Nah, retake. Just to annoy us. It was like VAR all over again, but back in the day. But then he didn't make the same mistake and smashed it in the goal to make it level. But that's the only credit they're going to get. That's the only credit.
Yeah.
Then, Mr. Mark Ward again. What's he do? Straight ball over the top. Mr. Tony Cottee should have scored. That's his criticism. He should have had a hat-trick that day as well. He missed a sitter. So, sorry, Mr. TC, if you're watching. He should have scored a hat-trick.
He probably won't be.
I'm going to tag him on Twitter. Yeah, he should have scored, but and then Mr. Paris got taken down by Tony Adams. That shocked me. Tony Adams took him straight out, and then Tony Cottee scored from the penalty spot. But there's this one player who my dad always talked about was Mr. Liam Brady. What a run for the third goal. I had to watch this back again, this goal, when he just picked it up and then smashed it. And the highlight of it was, I didn't realise it was that bad. He got booked for jumping into the crowd when he scored.
Wow.
Didn't realise back in the day that you get booked for that. And the funny thing was, I think even the West Ham players knocked a couple of policemen over. So if you want to watch some highlights and see policemen fall over, go and give that a watch. And that's me done. Sorry. Sorry, I took a bit longer.
Just apologies. No, I was going to say I'm going to use my because I've actually got that as one of my games, Andy, and I'll come back to it in a bit. But
Yeah,
because Liam Brady scoring against his boyhood club as well, and to celebrate, like you said, the way he did, running into the crowd and everything else, just shows you what a completely different game it is today. Because if that had happened, I'm not being funny. You have a look at Tevez when he scored against us for Man City, and it was at the end where the West Ham fans were behind the goal, if I remember rightly, at the Etihad. And he ran behind the goal, kind of, asking for forgiveness as he's running behind the goal to the West Ham fans. And let's be fair, we didn't give him any grief anyway, because he came out when he played for Man United and he did all of that, didn't he? So it just shows you, though, doesn't it, the difference in eras, as obviously as we've progressed, that he didn't he celebrated, he went.
I think it is money. I think money's played a big part as well. I honestly do. And that's just my opinion on that, but we can save that for another day.
That'll be a video in a couple of weeks. All right, I like it. Right. Who was your hammer of the year, Milesy?
Mr. Tony Cottee. Just because of he's just what can you imagine Tony Cottee in this team now? Can you imagine this in this West Ham team? This is the player.
If he was in this team, we'd already be qualified for the Champions League. I think with 22 league goals, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And every single goal was different. He scores with his head, left foot, right foot, running in behind. But the one stat, Nick, another stat was he didn't actually win Hammer of the Year.
No, he didn't.
Billy Bonds did, and that was.
Billy Bonds did. I'm going to start calling you Andy Gates.
Or Andy Stat Miles. I might change that on my name down the bottom.
Stato! That's who you look like from the old fantasy football league.
What is it, the Barnet?
Oh, Gatesy. Wouldn't it? Look at him. Barnet. Oh, Stato. Remember that? That's got to be done. Right, Gatesy, talk to me. Talk to me about your pick.
Okay, well, my first game is actually the opening game of the season. It was a game against Coventry City, who later that season would win the FA Cup. Now, look at that starting lineup for us. Phil Parkes in goal. Your defence was Alvin Martin, Ray Stewart, Tony Gale. You got Neil Orr, Alan Devonshire, Alan Dickens, George Parris, Mark Ward, Tony Cottee, Frank McAvenny for us. For Coventry that day, you had Agrizovic, Burrows, Kilcline, Peake, Phillips, Downs, McGrath, Pickering, Houchin, Regis, and Bennett. Again, looking at both those teams, all British. You got English, you got Scottish, you got Welsh players there. Totally different age. West Ham, it was a game where we was doing an awful lot of the attacking. It was after the first game of the season. We played in front of a home crowd of 21,368. It was 0-0 up to half time, and then we rolled around to around about the 85th minute. Alan Devonshire's going on a bit of a run. He's brought down outside the D for a free kick to be awarded. Now, you'd probably think that looking at that, you might think that maybe one of the more offensive-minded players might step up. So it was quite surprising that up rocked a certain Tony Gale, our centre-back, who since he'd signed for us in July 1984 from Fulham, was yet to record his first goal for the club. So you're sort of standing there thinking, what's he doing there? And he just let go with a right foot over the wall into the top right-hand corner, past a flailing Steve Agrizovic for a 1-0 win. And the season was off and running. And you think that obviously coming on the back of the season that we had before, where we finished third, a fantastic start. Obviously, we know that the season itself at the end didn't pan out to be the best. And just to sort of bring up the graphic, for those of you that don't know, that was our record in the league at the end of it. We finished 15th out of 22, a goal difference of -15. So it was quite a big drop off from the end of one season to the following season. But, you know, that was a good start for the season, a 1-0 home win against Coventry. Then moving on, the next game that I've chosen there is the home win against Southampton. Now, just look at that lineup for us. Parks, Potts, Martin, Gale, Orr, Devonshire, Ince, who was making his first home debut. He was making his first start. He'd actually made his debut coming on as a substitute the week before when we were beaten at St James's Park by Newcastle United. In the Newcastle
Are you sure?
United, yep.
I don't have to put an apology next week. All right.
There you go. In the Newcastle United lineup that day, just for a little bit of useless information, was no. I'm talking about the previous week.
Oh, sorry.
For the previous week, when Paul Ince came on and made his debut, he came on as a sub. In the Newcastle lineup that day was Paul Goddard, who came to Newcastle from us a few weeks earlier, and our future manager, the now dearly departed Glenn Roeder. And obviously the Southampton lineup that day, you had England's goalkeeper, England's number one of the day, Peter Shilton, Forrest, Blake, Bond, Tankard, Jimmy Case, who was a great player for Liverpool, got a couple of European Cup winners' medals, Glenn Cockerell, Lawrence, Colin Clark, Northern Ireland player, Gordon Hobson, and Danny Wallace, who would later play for Manchester United. Now, this was quite an eventful game in a lot of ways. So we start off with the first goal. It was a cross by the guy that Andy's mentioned, Mark Ward. It was a right wing cross. Devonshire hit it on the volley just around about the penalty spot. Peter Shilton in the Southampton goal made a magnificent save. However, the rebound dropped to an on-rushing Paul Ince. Again, this is his home debut. Met it with a header. Shilton, obviously, he was still sort of like recovering from the shot that he's just saved from Devonshire. He basically had no chance. It was 1-0 West Ham. Fantastic. However, shortly thereafter, Southampton get a free kick just outside our penalty area. Jimmy Case, who I mentioned earlier, the former Liverpool player, took the free kick. It took a bit of a deflection off the wall. It's looped up. As it's dropped down, it's fell to Colin Clark, who's got his head on it just to sort of lift it over Phil Parks for the equaliser. 1-1. Now, we're still in the first half at this point. We then go 2-1 up. Again, Mark Ward involved in the attacking play. He's got the ball. He's, again, beautiful delivery from the right-hand side. And on the back stick, coming in to meet it, was an on-rushing Alan Devonshire. Puts it past Peter Shilton, 2-1 at the break. We then go into the second half. Mark Blake, who was a player for Southampton, he then brings down Paul Ince. So he's had a fairly eventful debut one way and another. He scored a goal. He's now won a penalty. And Tony Cottee took this because obviously, as you'll see from the team sheet, there was no Ray Stewart. Ray Stewart would have taken that had he been on the pitch. He wasn't. He was injured during this time. So Tony Cottee was on penalty detail at this time. He took it low to Peter Shilton's left. That made it 3-1. Towards the end of the game, however, a little bit of drama. Southampton actually did score a goal by Gordon Hobson. And you're thinking, come back, 3-2, here we go. However, unlike Miles's one where it didn't quite go for us, the referee actually ruled the goal out for an infringement, and we was awarded a free kick, and we saw the game out, and we won that game 3-1. That was actually, as well as it being Paul Ince's first goal as a professional player, it was also our last victory of the year 1986. Okay. Then we move on to my third and final pick, which is something that I think everybody will look at with a great deal of joy and affection in their heart. It's a home victory against our local rivals from up the North Circular, the Spuds. So when our lineup that day was Tom McAllister, Tony Gale, Gary Strodder, Billy Bonds, the club captain, come back. Tommy McQueen, Liam Brady, Alan Devonshire, Stuart Robson, Mark Ward, Tony Cotty, Frank McAvenny. In the Tottenham lineup that day, and again, I mentioned earlier with Coventry, in the opening day, we beat them 1-0, and they would go on to lift the FA Cup. It would be Spurs that they would beat. Never mind. Ray Clements, again, great goalkeeper, won many European Cups with Liverpool. Richard Gough, in his one and only season in English football, he actually won Footballer of the Year that year. Chris Houghton, who would later play for us, was there. John Polston, Mitchell Thomas, again, someone else that would play for us at a later stage. Paul Allen, who won the FA Cup with us in 1980 and was the youngest player to win the FA Cup up to that point. Tony Galvin, Glenn Hoddle, who would later go to Monaco. Steve Hodge, Chris Waddle, Clive Allen, again, another player who would later ply his trade in claret and blue.
That Tottenham team's class.
Pretty
That's
good.
Bang on, isn't it? I was just thinking that,
Club
mate. I was
allegiances
just
aside,
thinking it.
Pretty decent. We open the scoring on the 43rd minute. Frank McAvenny turns the Spurs centre-back. He chests the ball down. Right foot finish. Past Ray Clements, 1-0. That's on the 43rd minute. We get to half-time, 1-0 to the good. Tottenham in the 59th minute, however, Glenn Hoddle, who was a really intelligent footballer, you got to say, lifted the ball with his right foot over the back line. Clive Allen breaks the offside trap. You know, no one's anywhere near him. He's broke the line, and he's got a simple finish past the goalkeeper. Just sends him the wrong way, sits him down, bang, 1-1, and you're thinking, oh dear. However, in the 63rd minute, Richard Gough fouled in the box Stuart Robson. The referee points to the spot, and again, Tony Cotty was on the penalty detail because, again, there was no Ray Stewart. He hits it to Clements' right, powerful shot, 2-1, and game over. So that was pretty much that. A home win against Spurs. Disappointing season, but that was one of our last games. In fact, that was on the 20th of April, 1987, 23,971 spectators crammed into Upton Park to see that. And just as an interesting little aside, the previous season when we finished third, and obviously Cotty and McAvenny were scoring a lot of goals, in this particular season, this was only the third league fixture in which both Cotty and McAvenny scored in the same game. Whereas in the previous season, they did it 9 times in the league. So it's quite a big drop-off. Cotty obviously was still our top goal scorer. He obviously scored 22 league goals and 28 goals in all competitions. However, McAvenny had quite an alarming drop-off in his second season. From memory, I think he scored 8 goals, I seem to recall. Or eight league goals. 7 league goals, 11 in all competitions. When considering the volume of goals he got the season before, is quite an alarming drop-off. He got 20 the previous season. He got 26 in the league, 28 in all competitions. So it was quite a big drop, I think it's fair to say. But so that they were my 3 games that I selected, and I commend these choices to the house.
Some good games you picked there, mate. I've got to say, give me a second, because this is incredibly unprofessional, right? But this just goes to show you how much I've been doing today. Yeah, there's Milesy. Look, I love it. I love it a lot. Hang on, don't go nowhere.
Do you know what this reminds me of, Gatesy? You reminded me when you was doing the loop over. You remind me of Dickie Davis on Gillette. Do you know he likes all the jumping and then. Here we go.
Nice one.
It's like, it is Gillette, isn't it? We're doing Gillette. It's unbelievable, Jeff.
Yeah, why not? Unbelievable.
The Bluetooth one just run out as Gatesy was going on for about 4 hours.
I'm sorry.
Talking with his hands. I'll tell you what, though, mate. The people from the is it BSL, the British Sign Language Group? They're going to love you, mate. They're going to. Everyone knew what was going on in that little talk. They'll know what that means. Right, so my turn, and I'm not going to lie to you, boys. I'm in nowhere near as in depth as you, but to be fair,
by the way,
I don't have to.
Got something.
What did we forget? You're Hammer of the Year. Go on, crack on.
Hammer of the Year. Same as Milesy, Tony Cotty. I know Billy Bonds won it, but I do think that was a little bit harsh on Tony Cotty because his performances, you look at it, he got 22 goals in the league. Now, I think I mentioned it on last week's recording. From this season, going back to this season, 86-87, that was the last time we had a goal scorer of 20 goals or more in a top flight season. We've not managed to produce one since. Quite an incredible stat when you think about it.
You say incredible, I read embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well,
in all honesty, that's where I'm at. Yeah. I think it's just embarrassing for a top flight side that we consider ourselves to be, and I say we consider ourselves to be, we are a big club. But that was the last time.
That was the last time in top flight. I mean, we had, I believe, but in the second tier, I'm talking top tier.
34 years, boys.
Mad, isn't
it? 34 years.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely nuts.
Christ.
And we're not going to do this season, really, are we? No chance, really, unless someone has
Lingard is double in every game.
Yeah.
Lingard, it's a brace every game for the rest of the season. I don't. Let's be fair. Listen, I'm not saying he won't. I'm not. Right, my three then.
Seven's pretty good.
My three then. All right. So I went with the West Ham Chelsea game. 5-3, as you can see there. John Bumstead. But you look again. There seems. I tell you, you can tell, boys, that throughout everything we've done so far, is just the nationalities of all the players of near enough every game that we've put up so far have been, English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, Northern Irish. So there's a lot to be said for what it was back then. And the quality of players that there were back then. I mean, that you look there, and I look at that West Ham team, and I just think, wow, what I'd give to have some of those players, or shall I say, the loyalty of some of those players there.
Yeah.
In today's team, that lot had run through brick walls for this club. That's the way that they are. My second game. Oh, let me, if I may, Gatesy, turn into you and turn into Andy. So I just need to bring this up. So the West Ham 5-3 game was actually one of only, I think, 4 that season.
Yeah.
That 8 goals in the season. And it was the joint highest scoring game of the season.
It was
with 8 goals. Yeah. My second game was the QPR away.
Can you name the other games?
No, that's your job, and you've got Google up in front of you, so knock yourself out. So.
We're a team, guys. Come on.
Not tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We ain't.
No. My second game, QPR West Ham. Special mention in this game to the pitch. The pitch was what they referred to as plastic back then. I think Loftus Road and Kenilworth Road both had plastic pitches. And when I say plastic pitches or artificial surfaces, I don't mean the artificial surfaces that we have now, like the rubber crumb ground up car tyres. This was old school sand and carpet. I know for a fact from playing on them when we were at school, you would end up needing skin grafts if you decided to go in for a slide tackle. The QPR goalkeeper at the time, who we don't know because his name's not on the screen.
Suspicion it might have been David Seaman.
Ooh,
Seaman. David Seaman.
Actually came out and said that he hated diving on the surface because he ended up with what seemed like 3rd-degree burns every time he made a save. The pitches then were, was it Peter Hucker? The pitches then were horrible. You know, those artificial surfaces were rotten, and I'd rather play in the quagmire that was, you know, the bogs and everything else that you'd have at the likes of Stamford Bridge, etc. You know, I'd rather play on those where the ball got stuck rather than, you know, need to visit hospital and, you know, like I say, having skin grafts every time. And then my final game was the same game as Andy. Was the Arsenal West Ham or West Ham Arsenal when Liam Brady scored against his old club. Again, you look at that side and I want to touch on what Andy said earlier. You know, Billy Bonds that season was how old, Andy? 41, did you say?
40 that season.
40 that season. His last season was 41. Sorry, apologies. But you look at that, and he's in that, you know, his penultimate season with us, and you look at the young man, number 2 in the Arsenal lineup, in Tony Adams. You know, back in '87. You know, I still remember Paolo Di Canio scoring against Arsenal when Adams was the one trying to make the block. You know, all them years later, you're looking at he's starting his career as Billy Bonds is essentially, you know, coming to the tail end of his, and it's just madness that, like you said, Andy, before we started recording, didn't realise that Tony Adams started his career then. You know, it seems like a world away now. And, you know, I remember watching Adams play, you know, the jokes of, what was it out of, what was the movie with the male stripper set in Sheffield?
Oh,
what was that movie? The Full Monty. They were doing the Arsenal, you know, step forward and put your hand up, you know, taking the mick out of Arsenal, the 1-0 to the Arsenal, you know, that phrase that came out, you know, you associate that with Tony Adams, but I associate that with Tony Adams in the 90s, not necessarily the late 80s, you know. So it just goes to show you that, you know, all of these players that we consider to be legends in the game, you know, really did start a long time ago. I mean, I've got some bits to wrap up here. So the end of the season, obviously all the Euro, like I say, the start of the season, you had the World Cup, kind of finished off the 85-86, started the 86-87 season. And obviously Gary Lineker, again, another big name, you know, in English football. But we've got the European finals. I've got those written down courtesy of him over there. So UEFA Cup, which was still, I didn't realise it was still in existence. I didn't realise we had the European Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, and then the UEFA Cup. To be honest, it just slipped my mind. So you had Gothenburg beat Dundee United 2-1 on aggregate because the UEFA Cup was played over 2 legs. Gothenburg won the first leg 1-0 at Tannadice.
No, it was at Gothenburg.
Right. Oh, was it at Gothenburg? And then they drew 1-1 in the return leg at Tannadice to beat them 2-1. The Cup Winners' Cup was won by Ajax, who beat Lokomotiv Leipzig, or Leipzig, however you want to pronounce it. I don't care. They beat them 1-0. And Ajax actually had Frank Rijkaard and Marco van Basten playing in that team.
They did.
But here's one for you, Andy. Off the bench in that game, 66th minute, Gatesy. Am I right? 66, 67?
66 minutes.
See, a young Dennis Bergkamp came off the bench in that final. So I have great difficulty getting my head around this. That Marco van Basten played in the same game as Dennis Bergkamp. That absolutely blows my mind, considering that Dennis Bergkamp came to the Premier League in the late 90s. Am I right in thinking?
95 from memory.
Oh, mid 90s then. So
He
still
was
10
signed by
years.
Bruce Rioch.
8 years prior, and he's he's kind of coming off the bench playing for an Ajax side that contain probably two of the greatest players in Dutch football. Let's not mess around. You know, Marco van Basten, managed by Cruyff as well. Yeah, you know. But that what year was the Euro goal? Was it the World Cup
88.
goal? Was it the
88.
Euros in '88 with a volley at the back post?
Yeah.
Oh, one of my favourite
brilliant.
goes ever scored.
And
One of my
Dasayev,
goals.
who was the goalkeeper, for the Soviet Union, was one of the best goalkeepers in the world at that time, but he just made him look stupid.
Oh, it was just embarrassing. But what a finish! And probably much. In all fairness, to compare the goals, it's 30 years today of recording. Am I right in thinking? This is what us West Ham fans like to call Paolo Day.
21, I think. Is it
21 years.
21 years on the day. I'd like to say that Van Basten goal would only have ever been tried by Van Basten in a game, in the same way that the Di Canio goal against Wimbledon is the only person to try that in a game. You know, it's a special talent that you have to be able to pull something like that out of the bag.
Absolutely.
In the pressures of an actual game. And then the European Cup was won by Porto. They beat Bayern Munich 2-1 in the final. And Andy, question for you, not for him over here. I will get this right one day. Here. Let's see if I can poke him in the ear. See if I can...
Hang on, I'm going the wrong way.
You still went the wrong way.
Go, try again. I'm ready. Hang on. If I go that way, go on. Ah!
It's like, and we're live.
To quote Mark Noble, it's not run like a circus anymore.
But it's
who was on the bench for Porto in that game?
Oh.
Or who played for Porto in that game?
I'm gonna have a punt.
He was an ex-Hammer, or is now an ex-Hammer. Would have been a future Hammer. There you go.
Yeah, he wasn't a Hammer for very long.
Danny.
No.
The other
good
one.
Effort though, not a bad effort. Got the ump because he couldn't have the shirt number he wanted and stormed out. Decided to go shopping, if I remember. Rightly.
It's gonna rip me. Go on, put me out of my misery. I wasn't expecting that one.
Paulo Futre.
Ah,
Paulo Futre.
Version of Maradona.
Very good player.
What? So what did he do? What? We didn't give him the right number.
Yeah, he was expecting the number 10, if I remember rightly, and he turned up for the game. I want to say Arsenal. It wasn't it? Yeah, he turned up at the Arsenal, and he wasn't given the number 10 shirt, so he stormed out and pissed off and went shopping.
Yeah. Apparently, the number 10 at that point was occupied by John Moncur. The story goes that it was in the changing rooms at Highbury that he was handed the number 16, I believe it was, and he was like, "No, I'm Futre, number 10," and he stormed out. And apparently, he later had a word with John Moncur, and he offered him sort of like an all expenses paid stay in his villa, this, that, and the other, if he could have the number 10 shirt. And very quickly, Paulo Futre was West Ham's number 10, and John Moncur was West Ham's number 16, and he remained ever so even after Futre left.
Even after he left, didn't he? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that the season didn't reach the heights for West Ham as obviously the season before, did it? As you add up on the screen there, Gatesy, you know, the season before, you know, we were in a plus goal difference. You look at this team, which, to be fair, wasn't a million miles away from the team that we had the season before. Conceded so many goals. You look at that. The away form really was poor. Like, it was an awful away form that season. How many points, Gatesy, did we get the season before? Can you remember?
84. I'm going to say
it was 84. It was 84 because Everton got 86, didn't they? And then Liverpool
84.
were 80.
And look at the goal difference, the change in goal difference. We went from plus 34 to minus 15 in 12 months.
Do you reckon we got found out from the season before, the way we played? Do you reckon that had something to do with it?
Do you know what I think it was? I think that the season before, if you actually look at it, we had very little in the way of injuries. Our first 11 most weeks was the same. Whereas you look at this season, there were players dropping out. I mean, Ray Stewart had an injury. I know McAvenny didn't have an injury, but his form dropped off alarmingly. That's a big part of the reason. I mean, you had a striker that had 22, I think I said, 24 league goals, and then the following season he got 7. You know, I mean,
Billy Bonds was injured as well, wasn't he? Was Billy Bonds?
Billy Bonds, he missed the season before. Yeah, I think it was a toe injury, which basically put him out for the whole season. And he obviously came back during this season, played 17 league and 7 cup games, and ended up, as we said earlier, Hammer of the Year, despite that fact. But yeah, I mean, I think it was. I don't think it was any one thing in isolation, but I do think that the fact that we had the previous season, we had a settled first 11 pretty much week in, week out. You know, I mean, sort of like, you know, just off the top of my head, I mean, the team would, Phil Parkes would be in goal, Ray Stewart would be at right back. Left back was the sort of like the area that I know from hearing interviews with people like McAvenny and Mark Ward, was the position that they all turned around and said, if we could change one thing, if we could have put a prime Julian Dix in there, we wouldn't have just won the league, we'd have pissed it. That was Mark Ward's quote, I do believe, on it.
It was a general consensus, wasn't it?
Yeah. You had Alvin Martin and Tony Gale at centre back. You had Alan Dickens in midfield. You had Alan Devonshire on the left wing, Mark Ward on the right wing. You had Cotty and McAvenny up front. So it was a settled 11 pretty much week on week. You know, you had George Paris that would be flitting around, Neil Orr that would be flitting around, you know, but that would basically be the basis of the team every single week. When you look at a lot of the games that were played in the 86-87 season, you know, Phil Parkes missed a few games. Ray Stewart was out for quite a spell. You know, we had to give debuts to people like Steve Potts, Paul Ince, Kevin Keane. Another little thing that's possibly overlooked is that in the summer, now we think that, you know, we had it bad last season, but that summer, bearing in mind, this is a team that finished the season one game potentially away from winning a league title. There was no signings in that summer, none. The first signing that we made was Stuart Robson, who came in January. Don't forget, there was no transfer window.
Transfer window was there.
So our first signing was Stuart Robson in the January. 2 months later, we then signed Gary Strodder, Tommy McQueen, and Liam Brady. That was our only signings all season. And considering that we was a team that was pushing for the title, could you imagine that happening now? Could you imagine us this season finishing third, 4 points off of the lead, and going in for the title still on the last game of the season?
On the last game,
and we don't sign anyone in the summer, and we don't sign anyone until the January, and it's only one player. You'd do your nut, wouldn't you?
Yeah, mate, it ain't really what I'd expect that anyway with this lot that are in charge. To be fair,
well, this was obviously well before the case got rucked up. This was the Turns family.
They were too busy making another kind of films at that time.
You may very well say that, Milesy, but we at Falls from Iron could not possibly comment.
Well, she might have been.
Steady.
Right, boys.
Just as a little thing, guys. Before we wrap it up, I'm gonna just sort of like just for a little bit of because I've shown the one with our league, what's names you got there, and obviously the one with Tony Cotty, his goal scoring achievements. And as I say, we've all said he would have been our Hammer of the Year. Just for a little bit of extras, our Cup exploits. We got to the FA Cup 5th round, where we went out 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday after a replay on the 25th of February. In the League Cup, we went out in the quarterfinals after a replay. Unfortunately, it was a 5-0 away defeat by our friends up the North Circular in North 17. And that was a matter of 23 days before the FA Cup exit on the 2nd of February. In terms of our attendances, highest attendance was 29,807 in the game against Liverpool on the 6th of September. Lowest home attendance was 13,514 against Sheffield Wednesday on the 24th of March, 87. Our average home league attendance was 20,545. And for those of you that weren't alive then, I was a baby then. This was before all-seater stadiums, ladies and gentlemen. So this was back in the days when you could rock up to a game and you could stand and you wouldn't get a steward coming along and telling you, sit down, sit down. You know, little sort of like Hitler in a high vis. But there you go.
Hey, easy. It's not very nice.
Just wanted to get it off my chest.
Right, Gatesy, do your bit. Do your thing.
Okay, so for those of you that have made it this far, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring your attention. This is my shout out to Isla's Army. For those of you that don't know, Isla Caton is a 6-year-old girl. She is suffering with a condition called neuroblastoma. This is a cancer that tends to be more prevalent in children, and it's a really aggressive form of cancer for which in this country there ain't no treatment, ladies and gentlemen. So she can't be rocking up to a local NHS hospital and getting the treatment she needs and cracking on. So her family have got to stop everything. Take this little kid onto a plane, take her wherever it is around the world that she's got to go to get her treatment to hopefully save her life. Stop and think about it, guys. You've got to pay for your treatment. You've got to pay for the travel to and from whichever country. Whilst you're staying there, you've got to pay for your accommodation. You've got to pay for your food, your living costs. You've still got your bills to pay in the UK. Don't forget, you know, the mortgage or the rent company are not going to sort of say, don't worry about that, don't pay. You're going to have to pay all of that. You're going to have to pay all your bills, all the stuff. That's still going to have to be paid for, guys. So this is a family that seriously needs our help, okay? So if you're watching this right now, whatever you've got that you can reasonably spare and put in the tin, I don't care whether it's £1, whatever the amount is, £1 upwards, this family needs it, okay? We're around about payday, so if there's anything you can put in the tin, guys, I'm begging you, this is where I'd like you to put any spare change, guys. So there's a PayPal there, there's a Just Giving there, and I'm telling you now, every single day that goes past is absolutely critical and is putting more odds against this little girl. Just put yourself in this family's shoes, guys. If you think you've had it tough with this pandemic, and we all have, just imagine what this family are going through on top of that, okay? So whatever you've got, guys, I implore you, this is where we at Forge from Iron would ask you to put any spare change. If you can't, I appreciate that times are tough. All I'd ask you to do, guys, take this message, send it to your contacts, share it. Keep this momentum going, because this little girl, 6 years of age, she's got her whole life ahead of her, and we need to try and do our best to try and get this girl living a fit and healthy and happy life. Thank you very much indeed for listening.
Yeah, well said, Gatesy. Always gets me when you do that, I've got to say. That's why I let you do it, because I don't think I could do it justice, to be fair. We've come to the end, guys. We've come to the end.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, all right, sorry.
I don't know whether anyone who watched last week's show.
Stop it. Stop covering his face up. Look at it. Oh, if you want to just cover his head up so it covers up the shine, that'll be fine. But
I could have done this one.
It just
I could have done
disappeared.
this one.
Get it off and let the man talk.
As we said last week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going through each season, but we're going to slowly. It might not be next week; it may be the week after. We'd like to get a guest to come on and talk about your season. So, what we'd like you to do is, if you give us a DM on Twitter or whatever, whether you want to come on, and what you have to do is select your season and what means the much to you, your hammer of the year. If you just let us know in advance, we'll get it all sorted, and you'll come on for the last 15 minutes of the show. This is not just a normal channel. Like you said, we have a load of people on, and we'd like to get everyone to come on really and say their bit. If anyone wants to add anything else.
Audience
my concern
is what
is
we like.
My concern is you said we're not like any other channel. That sounded like a bit of a dig at the channel there, mate. A little bit of a dig at the channel. You know what I mean? I'm not
working for the other channels. No, I'm joking.
I love this gig. I love this gig.
You know I'm only joking, but like you said,
this anywhere else, do you? It's brilliant.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is a unique thing. What we've come up with, and we just love to have people on. So if you'd like to, just drop us a message.
The tickers at the bottom, guys. You've got the Twitter, you've got the Facebook, you've got the Instagram. So, guys, let us know your thoughts. If, as Andy says, you've got direct messages if you want to get involved, and we really want you guys to get involved because this is a West Ham channel. It's not just about us. It's about the whole West Ham community. We really want to involve all of us. Yeah. We might all have different views on how things should be done and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, we all love West Ham United. We all want West Ham to push on and be the best that they can be. So get yourselves involved, guys. We really want you on board. As I say, look at the ticker at the bottom. You've got all our social media platforms, and obviously the usual things that we say. And I've got the new little thing there. I'm going to put it up. There you go. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, you enable notifications so you'll be notified of any new content. And we'd like to ask you also to comment in the section below the video. Da, 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 da.
And
Gatesy,
before we go,
go on.
He's getting. I'm telling you now, Milesy, you're getting the Michael Buffer treatment next week. Definite. I'm gonna get the old tuxedo out. I'm telling you.
I love it.
Coming to you from Hornchurch, Essex, the reigning, defending. No, stop there.
There's something wrong with you, I tell you.
Yeah.
Do me a favour. Just reach over your shoulder and give your son a smack up the side of the head while he's trying to get up the stairs. Look, trying to steal your face. He's trying to steal your airtime. Look at him. Look.
Clear off.
Get out of it. We're on. You're on camera. Go on. Get your hair cut. No, thank you very much for joining me, you two. Much appreciated. Andy, I know you can still hear me. It looks like you're in a prison cell.
He's pretending to work.
I don't know what he's doing now, but all right. Thank you for both of you. Thank you very much. Thank you both for coming on. I really do. I really love this channel. This channel has given me so much to do during the back end of this lockdown. Same as all the other channels have given me, a hell of a lot of support and help and something to concentrate on during this. So if we're doing the same for you and you're laughing as much as we are, fantastic. If you don't, get a sense of humour. I shall see you boys on the downside. We'll speak on another day. Those of you watching, there's only one more thing left to say, and that is, come on, you irons.